Hello, hello. So I'm just going to be freestyling this message. That means that, it's not going to be a scripture. There's not going to be any productions, anything. I'm just going to say what the Lord has put on my heart to say. So this is a message that's been brewing for a long time. And it needed to wait for more pieces to be uncovered, is what the Lord is saying, uncovered in order to put together. So picture that you had, like, just say, for instance, a 100, 500,000 piece puzzle. It doesn't really matter how many, but okay, the Lord is saying the more pieces, the more descriptive. So this situation, take this if it resonates for you. This may not resonate for everybody, okay? And that's because there's billions of people in the world and millions of people that might come across this. And out of those millions, maybe only a handful will truly understand what I'm saying. And why that is because it's not for them. So the Lord has a specific message for somebody, not just one person, but somebody's that this may apply to, okay? So put this, if it fits for in your life, as this is either a revelation or a confirmation. If this doesn't make any sense to you, don't try to put it on, because then that means it's not for you, because it's very specific. All right. So the Lord is saying that if this specific message is fitting for your situation, that it was a very complex situation. So whether it was 100 pieces, 500 pieces, or 1,000, it was a lot of pieces, right? Multiple, like 100 plus pieces, lots and lots of little pieces that made up this complex situation, right? And each piece was the Lord is saying some pieces were hidden, but other pieces were buried. And either way, you had this like big mission ahead of you where you had to like go and excavate and discover and find. And some pieces were easy to find and other pieces were harder to find. Other pieces you had to wait 2 months to receive. Other pieces you had to like dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig to get. Other pieces, you thought were one place, and then it was like a treasure hunt or whatever you want to say, where it's like, nope, not here. X marks the spot. And then you had to go and find where X was. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Lord is showing me that it's like, it took, like, so this situation could have taken years to unravel. Years, okay? And one of the reasons why it had taken so many years, the Lord is saying anywhere between 3 to 5 years to unravel, is because there were so many little complex pieces and characters and things that were involved. Now, again, going back to the puzzle analogy, if you're building a puzzle, if you only, say you're building a 500 piece puzzle, say, and you only have 5 pieces, you're not going to see any picture with 5 pieces out of 500, right? So you need another like 50 pieces, and then another 30 pieces, and then another 100 pieces, and then another 40 pieces. And the more that you're uncovering these pieces in little amounts, it's 1 by 1, which adds up to 10 by 10, which adds up to 100 by 100. Eventually the puzzle starts to come together, right? But initially, when you started this mission out, you were given like the first 10 pieces, and that was it. And then from there you had to go and uncover things to get more pieces to make up this puzzle so you could get the full image, dig for things, do all this work to try and get all these different pieces. And so the more that you worked on yourself while this was happening, right, because this was all deliberate, this was very strategic, these people involved in this, they felt like they were being strategic, but in actuality it was the Lord that was being strategic, okay? When you were going through these things looking for these pieces, these people didn't hide all the pieces, but these people that were going against you, that were responsible for hiding or burying some of the pieces, that were making it difficult for you, sending you on wild goose chases to look for these pieces, they felt like they were being very crafty, very clever, very strategic, and that you had no clue what was going on. But in actuality, you knew the whole entire time what was going on. Yes, maybe they had a little nugget of information, aka a piece that they had under their vest that they were able to like put somewhere to do something. But they don't understand that you knew what the mission was. They thought you were just like the Lord showed me like a blind person with a blindfold on wandering in circles, like that you were just completely lost in the sauce. But the Lord is saying you knew more all along. You knew more than they thought that you knew. And the Lord just keeps telling me that phrase. Sometimes you have to play the fool to fool the fool who thinks they're fooling you. And so that's the thing, is that I've made messages about that before, is that you knew, like, say out of 100%, they thought you knew like 10% or less. But in actuality, you started out this mission knowing like 30-40% from the get-go, from day one. It wasn't that you didn't understand what was going on. Yes, certain things came up to your attention along the way, but that's only because certain things twisted and slithered, the Lord is saying, okay, so involving serpent energy snake, twisted and tweaked and slithered along the way. So what they had created or thought they created for you in the very beginning actually became something that like shifted and changed as they went. Okay, sorry, the Lord is showing me like the game Jumanji. I don't know why. Like it wasn't. I think it started. It was a movie about a game, and then maybe they came out with a game. I don't know, but I remember watching the movie when I was a kid, like super young. So I don't really remember the reference, but that's what the Lord is saying. But I'm getting what He's putting down, where He's saying it was a game, right? So they started out playing like checkers with you, just say for instance, and they thought that you were blindfolded and dumb and going in circles. So not only would you not be able to play the checkers, you wouldn't even know that checkers was being played, okay? But the Lord is saying, on like foolishly for them, the joke was on them, and they're discovering this now, that while they thought you were the fool, they were actually the fool, because they thought you didn't know things, and in actuality you did. So therefore you actually were smarter than they were, because on a scale of 1 to 10, they thought you knew a 2 out of 10, but you actually knew a 6 or 7 out of 10. So therefore they're actually the ones that are technically dumber, because the things they thought you didn't know, you actually knew, and they should have saw that coming, right? You know what I'm saying? If they were so clever and strategic. So they were trying to create this game of checkers for you to play, which is like it's child's play. Children can play checkers, right? And they're like, oh, they're never going to get through the checkers. Like, not only do they not know how to play checkers, they have no clue that they're even playing checkers. Oh, we're so crafty. Like that's what the Lord is showing me. But you knew, mistakenly for them, you knew from day one that you were playing checkers, and you actually already had an idea from your past as to how to play the game, right? Maybe you weren't a top player on that very first day, but you knew more than they gave you credit for, right? Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, they thought you came into it at a 1 or a 2, but you actually walked into it at a 6 or a 7. They just didn't know that, okay? And that worked out to your advantage, and the Lord was actually the one playing strategic. The Lord had these people playing strategic against you, but vice versa. The Lord also had you play strategic against them in order for this to work, because if you knew what these people were doing, you wouldn't have played, right? Like if you knew the full picture, like if on a scale of 1 to 10 you knew a 6 or 7, but say you knew a 10 or 11 out of 10, you wouldn't have even bothered, right? And if you hadn't have bothered, you wouldn't have learned what you learned and grew how you grew, right? And came out better for it. Vice versa, these people wouldn't have been taught a lesson if you didn't play. So them creating this game for you to play, and you going along playing it, acting like an idiot when you weren't, actually was to your advantage and to their advantage in a ways. It worked out, initially it worked out the best for you, but in the end it's going to work out for everybody. And I'll explain why. Is because they thought they were setting you up, and in a wet roundabout way they were. However, you knew more about what they were doing than they thought. However, you didn't know the full story. And you didn't know the full story because you're stupid. You didn't know the full story because the Lord knew that if you knew the full story, you wouldn't play the game with them. And if you didn't play the game with them, then you wouldn't have came out the winner. Because the only way you can have a winner at something and a loser at something is if you have a competition, like a game you play, right? Whatever it may be, a challenge. And so the Lord knew that you were super smart, but He blinded you to some things intentionally so that you would go ahead and play this, because you actually had the capacity to play chess, but these people were so dumb that they thought you couldn't even play checkers, right? And checkers is like elementary compared to chess, right? But you and the Lord knew that you could play chess level, but the Lord had to dumb you down, so to speak, in a way, because he knew that you're so like advanced with like at chess that you wouldn't even waste your time at checkers, right? That's like child's play to you. But the Lord needed you to go through this so that you could learn things and grow things, because who knew that an idiot could teach somebody intelligent something? But that's what happened. These people, they were not as smart as you, right? And again, this isn't a message of I'm great, I'm great, you're bad, or whatever. I'm good, you're bad, whatever. This is just what the Lord is telling me, okay? So just roll with it. But like, so these people thought you were dumb, but they were actually the dumb ones, and you taught them lessons through the fact that they thought you were dumber than them, right? And vice versa. You were actually smarter than these people, but them being dumb, like dumber than you, actually taught you some lessons as well. So you both learned from each other, okay? And it worked out to your advantage in the end, because you ended up, when you played this checkers game that they assumed from the, so, okay, thank you, Lord, hallelujah. The Lord is saying he made you look dumber than you were to these people. And so that you weren't being perceived accurately by them, okay? But the Lord knew that if these people knew how advanced you were, they wouldn't have even wasted their time or bothered to set up this checkers game for you, knowing that you know how to play chess, right? And vice versa. If the Lord showed you all the pieces of the puzzle of what these people are trying to do, the game he'd set up for you through them, that you wouldn't have played either, because you're on a chess level and it started out as a checker game. Okay, you know what I'm saying? But again, this had to be this way so that you could learn these lessons and grow like you have throughout the course of this 3, 4, 5 year mission that you've been on, right? So whatever fundamentals you've learned over this course of this 3, 4, 5 year time frame, you didn't have before, and these people provided to you through creating this game, whether it's Jumanji, checkers, whatever, right? They manifested this game, and the Lord had them act accordingly, and you act accordingly, okay? Then they also simultaneously, they lost. So the good news for you is you won, and the good news for you is they lost. So what this looks like now moving forward is that, just like in any game, any competition, when someone wins, they get the trophy, they get the flowers, they get the applause, the accolades, the praise, right? When someone loses, they get the boos, they get the they get the like loser's prize, whatever it may be. They get, you know what I'm saying? And so the Lord is saying, just like that in and of itself, that is what's playing out here, okay? It either is right this moment as I'm speaking, or it's coming up around the corner. So you have already conquered and won this checkers game a long, long time ago. And then they actually, because of that, there was still more that needed to be learned. Then it had to graduate into chess. You see, so say it's like 4 years, just say. The first 2 years was chess or checkers, and the last 2 years has been chess. Oh, sorry. And so you had, like, the game got leveled up on you, right? But the thing is that you always had the ability and the skill and knowledge to be able to play chess from the very beginning. But because these people thought you were dumber than you were intentionally, they didn't go to chess, they went to checkers, okay? And then when you beat that out, which you inevitably would because you know how to play that times 10, then the ante had to get upped to chess in order to try to really test you out, really, see what you can do. Because maybe with the checkers portion, you just got lucky, okay? So anyway, so then you played chess and you won that too. And then if they created another game, which the Lord says they're trying to do, they're trying to go to the next game beyond chess. But you have the ability to beat that one as well. But the Lord is already shutting this down, because he's saying the plan has been fulfilled. Like, the mission has been accomplished. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Mission accomplished. The things that the Lord wanted you to learn in this dynamics and scenarios, you've already learned them throughout this course of this 3, 4, 5 year term, however long it plays out for you. You've learned and you've won. So therefore, that's that, right? these people have lost. And so because they've lost, they're going to it's turning back on them, right? The Lord, picture somebody that's sitting there saying, I'm the best chess player, I'm the best checkers player, I'm going to beat them, I'm going to beat them. And they're going around, they're doing everything they can to make you look like you're going to lose, to make themselves look like a great player. And then say the competition happens, y'all play checkers or chess, and you win. And then there's like, you do another round and you win, and then another round and you win, and then another round, then it's the final round, the finale, and you win. Then the people can't say anything, these opponents that said that you were going to lose, right? Now everyone's looking at them like, I thought you said they were going to lose. Like, it looks like not only did they win, they won, they max won, you know what I mean? They won the most you could win, right? So not only do you look like the winner with the victory, but they look like the loser that's defeated, right? And there's nothing that they can do, because what are they going to... So you played the checkers against them and you won, they lost all the rounds. Then they leveled it up to chess. You played that one, and then same thing, you won all the rounds, they lost all the rounds. How can they, with their head held high, go around and with their full chest like they were before, go and say, oh, I've created a new game that we're going to play and I'm going to win this time? People don't buy it. They're like, the shame on you if you fool me once, shame on me if you fool me twice, right? So the first time that they played, like say 2 years ago, they played checkers with you and you won, they were like, it was just a fluke, they got lucky, it was just a fluke, blah, 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 blah. And so people kind of bought that. And so then when they did the second round, and the second round was even harder than the first, and you whooped them that time too, now their attention that they had, like the audience they had, isn't, they're not buying the tickets to the competition anymore. You know what I mean? They're not interested. They're like, no. Because the first time they won fair and square, but you tried to say it was, you know, it was on them, it was a fluke or whatever, it was a lucky shot. So then we bought into a second time, and you swore that this would be more of a challenge because it was chess graduated from checkers, and they still pulled it all out every time. So no, we're starting to just see that maybe you're the loser, and you won't take your lick lying down. Like, nothing's worse than a sore loser. You know what I mean? A sore loser where they clearly lose and they don't have the showmanship or the, what's the word, Lord? Thank you, Lord. Diplomacy. They don't have the diplomacy or the showmanship to go and say, okay, you won fair and square, we lost. You know what I mean? You know, at the end of, like, say, a hockey game or whatever, they go and shake each other's hands and stuff. This person can't do that, right? And they're like I said, this is either playing out now, like it already has. This is a past, present energy, or this is a future energy, okay? And if it's a future one, it's coming up around the bend. They can't go back for a third round, because for one, they know you're going to beat them. For two, they know they're going to lose. For three, they're going to look even dumber than they already do. They've already looked dumb twice during the checker match and the chess match. Now what? They want to look dumb 3 times? They've proven themselves to be the loser to themselves, to you, and to this audience that they brought in. And they can't even have the respect to go and, like, say, okay, you know, like, lose gracefully. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. They can't lose gracefully. And so that in and of itself, that combination is making them look like, you know, not too good. And the Lord is saying that if they try to come back a third time, which they won't, because they think it was governed by them, but it was actually governed by him, that the game is rigged now. Like, it was always rigged, but it's obviously rigged. That even if they try to come up with something the next ante, the third game, you're still going to pull out and win on that one too. So there's no point. You know, if they move to the right, they lose. If they move to the left, they lose. There's no win-win here for them, okay? So this is the thing, is that the mission has been accomplished and fulfilled, and the mission never was to make you lose, to make you look bad, to make you look like a fool. The mission was for you to learn certain fundamentals that you've learned throughout this experience. It's already happened through this chess match and this checkers match. And for these people to also learn some things through losing this checker match and chess match, okay? I could go on and on and on about the various lessons that you learned through this and they learned through this, okay? So you taught them some things and they taught you some things. And they were things that were necessary for your growth. And okay, thank you, Lord, hallelujah. One of the things that the Lord is telling me right now that he wants me to touch on is, before you went through this checkers match and chess match and you grew through this, you had a habit, a bad habit, the Lord is saying, of chumming around, either dating or hanging out with people that were beneath you. Okay, they were below you. They were below your okay, the Lord is saying your credibility and your ability. So your credibility and your ability, these people were less than, okay? And again, this message is not one's better than the other. Again, I'm just saying what the Lord is saying, telling me to say. David and Saul were both anointed as kings, but as we know from scriptures, Saul wasn't half the man that David was. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the same thing, is that these people, you're human, they're human. Yeah, fair enough, but they're not half the person that you are. And this message goes for men or women, okay? And they knew that. They knew that you were a 10 going down to their 5 level, okay? And you did that because of childhood trauma, people telling you weren't good enough, unhealed wounds. You were born a 10, you've always been a 10, but there were things you went through in your past, namely your childhood, that made you act and think and feel like a 5 out of 10 instead of the 10 out of 10 you were. And because of that, you felt like you could relate with those that were true blue 5s. They were born and bred true blue 5s. They were not 10s. So they were always subpar to you, but you felt like you had stuff in common with them because you were, brought down a lot of pegs due to unfair treatment and things like this, abuse, whatever else. And so because of that, you had a bad habit throughout your life of rubbing shoulders with people that were below your 10 status. You were born a 10, you're supposed to live up to being a 10, but you, due to things you went through, were acting out being a 5 out of 10, okay? And therefore you attracted people that also were 5s out of 10s. And these people thought that there must be something wrong with you because why is a 10 acting like a 5, right? And so that is why they assumed that you were crazy, or that, you had something wrong with you, or you were stupid, or, this, that, and the third, or evil, or whatever, is because they needed to come up with some explanation why a 10, and an obvious 10, is rubbing shoulders with 5s, right? But you didn't see it that way. You thought that these people, you thought you were a 5 like them, and sometimes you thought some of these people were 10s like you. Like, you had a part of you that was, you were always a 10 inside, but you acted like a 5 because of this trauma, okay? And so sometimes you would mistakenly treat 5s like 10s when they weren't. They were 5s. And also other times these 5s knew you were a 10, but they would treat you like a 5 even though you weren't, because you were rubbing shoulders with them. Does that make sense? And so these people were always beneath you, okay? So why are you shocked and surprised that they're liars, that they're cowards, that they're betrayers, backstabbers, thieves? Because that's what they were. They were born that way. They're born 5s. Of course a 5 isn't going to be a 10, right? And so you're a 10 living in the lifestyle of a 5, expecting to come into contact with 10s. It's not going to happen, right? And so this was why the Lord created this. It was for your favor, so that when you learned these fundamental lessons that you've learned, you could discover finally for the first time in your life that you're a true 10. You've always been a 10, and everything that you thought before this mission got launched was wrong. The Lord used this game to teach you that you were not a 5, you're a 10, and stop treating 5s like 10s. Okay, and go look for 10s like yourself. And if you're around people that aren't 10s and you can't find a 10, then walk away, right? A 10 is not going to understand a 5, and a 5 is not going to understand a 10. They're too far apart. And so this was why these people didn't get you, and you had a hard time, y'all were square pegs and round holes with each other, because, you're walking around as a 10, you should go be with 10s and leave the 5s with 5s, but you felt lowered down to a 5, down to their level, not because you actually were, but because of what you'd been through, okay? And so this is why they couldn't understand why someone like a 10 like you was hanging around with them. All right, so I hope that makes sense. So this is why sometimes they sabotage things or cheated on you or treated you badly, is because they thought you must have, like, what is it? Do you want my money? Do you want to bring me down? Do you want to make a joke of me? You know what I'm saying? Because they couldn't wrap their mind around why a 10 would slum down to a 5. They couldn't figure it. So when you were dating some of these people in your past, they were 5s and you were a 10. So they thought that they hit the jackpot with you. But then they started to think, wait a minute, why is this person with me in the first place? Like, I got with them because I thought something was wrong with them. I thought that they were a 5 like me. But now I've gotten to know them. I see that there's a big gap between us. And this is why you couldn't click with these people, because you're a 10, they're a 5, they're a 5, you're a 10. You know what I mean? And then when they started to discover and uncover that you're a true 10, whether you see it or not, they assumed you knew that about yourself because you're coming off so confident and stuff. And the reason you're coming off so confident and stuff is because you're a 10, right? But, and so you had a hard time on your end because you're like, hey, I care about this person. I see them as a 10, even though in reality they're a 5. They know they're a 5 and everyone else knows they're a 5, but you're seeing them as a 10. So then people start coming up to them and saying, do you think they're trying to play you? Do you think that they got a trick up their sleeve? Because why? Like, because it just wasn't matching, right? It wasn't making sense. But you didn't have a secret agenda or an ulterior motive. You genuinely cared about these people, and you felt like you were either a 5 like them or they were a 10 like you. You weren't looking like, I'm a 10, you're a 5, haha. That's not what you were doing. But because it didn't make sense to them, they were like, so you're being genuine and real, but they can't understand why that would be. So therefore they start trying to assume that there must be something else behind the scenes here, even though there wasn't. And so this is why you're not able to have them understand you, and they're not able to click with, like, y'all can't click together. While you're zigging, they're zagging. While they're zagging, you're zigging. You know what I'm saying? They're seeing you wrong and you're seeing them wrong, because they know they're a 5, but you're looking at them as a 10, and they know you're a 10, but you're trying to act like a 5. So it's just confusion between you to them and them to you, right? And this was going on with you for like your whole life, the Lord is saying. And so this is what was causing you to have heartbreak after heartbreak, rejection after rejection. It wasn't that you weren't good enough, it was actually that you were too good. And these people couldn't understand, why are you friends with me? Why are you working this job and palling with these coworkers? Why are you dating me? Like, it was situation after situation after situation where people couldn't understand why you're a 10. You know you're a 10 inside, and these people can tell you're a 10, but yet you're like choosing to put all that aside and go and lower yourself down to 5 level. 5 level jobs, 5 level partners, 5 level friends, right? And these 5 level people know they're 5s, not 10s, so they think that you must be up to something sneaky. There's got to be an ulterior motive as to why you're doing this. And because of that, they were treating you shady, right? And there was no ulterior motive, so you're like, why are you treating me shady? And they're like, well, are you acting shady? And you're like, no. And they're like, are you sure? Like, you see? And then meanwhile, that was one thing. But then they had people around them that were also 5s that knew they were a 5 and could tell you were a 10. And that there was this indifference between y'all. And we're going and filling their head with stuff. Like, do you think this is, are they a gold digger? Are they evil? Are they cheating? Like, you know, what's going on here, right? And so anyways, it just made a big, huge mess. And at the end of it, before this mission launched, you were feeling, you know, abused and heartbroken and taken advantage of and betrayed. And it was nothing that you did to deserve this, right? And because it was a low point for you when these people had done this to you, you were feeling like a 5. You know, you'd always felt like a 10 in 5 situations, but now you're actually feeling like a 5. And they're like kind of happy about that because they knew you were a 10, and so they feel like they were successful in bringing you from level 10 down to a level 5. And that felt like a victory for them. And you're like, well, why would people be so mean and evil and corrupt? Well, because they're 5s. You know, they were dud eggs from the very beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like a lemon from the beginning. So of course they're going to act like that and do that. It's what's expected. You expect a snake to bite, right? These people were snakes. So of course the snake's going to bite you, right? It's to be expected. So yeah, so anyways, so you learned these hard lessons that you needed to learn in order to have a successful future, because the Lord is saying, had he not stopped everything in its tracks and launched this game, this mission that he did between you and these people, you 10 and these 5s, that you would have continued on the next 5, 10, 15, 25 years of your life in being a 10, acting like a 5, and attracting more 5s and more 5s and just more disappointment until the day you left the earth. Okay, you know what I'm saying? And so this is why the Lord did this. Now, simultaneous, so that's your end. But on their end, they needed to learn to not judge books by their covers, you know, that even though they're 5s, they can still do better. That, you know, some of these people are 5s and they're going to leave the earth that way. They're not going to change, right? They just served a purpose. They were used as a tool by the Lord to help you, chosen one, to help you level up. Like, and you didn't need, I don't want to say level up because you've always been on the top level, but understanding that, right? Seeing that for the first time of what it was, okay? So the Lord had orchestrated this whole scenario from beginning, middle to end, and it was all in your favor, okay? And of course the Lord had to make it look along the way like it wasn't in your favor, because if you knew it was in your favor, you would have acted differently. You would have overpassed the lesson. You wouldn't have learned the lesson. You know what I'm saying? If you know you're going to win the race, you're not even going to run, because what's the point, right? You'd walk in and say, give me the trophy. I know I'm going to win the race. You see what I'm saying? But it's in the race that you learn where you need to, like, how fast you go, where you need to pick up speed, where you could have tripped, you know, along the way. You know what I mean? It's during the race that you learn where you need to practice and fix certain areas, right? If you just walk up, oh, you're the winner, and you're like, here I am, and you get the trophy, you're not going to learn things during the race that are fundamental for you to know how to run the race even more, like, more properly or even better the next round. You know what I'm saying? So this is the thing, was that the grunt work, the dirty work along the mission was what was to be learned, right? The hard days, the struggles, the hardships, the rough patches, that was the point. You know what I'm saying? And so anyways, so this looks like you knowing what these people were doing all along, and them not thinking that you did, but you really in actuality truly did, right? But at the same time, they took advantage of the fact that you didn't know every single tiny piece, and you didn't, because the Lord knew that if you did know every single tiny piece, that you wouldn't have done this mission in the first place, right? And if you knew then if you knew now what am I trying to say, Lord? If you knew then what you know now, then you wouldn't have done it, right? And the Lord knew that. That's why he had to cover some of your intelligence a bit, so that it was believable, okay? So that when you were going through these things, that you were, it's like, say you know how to do division, okay? At the top of your head, you know division. Sometimes you would have to pretend around people that don't know math very good that you don't even know how to do addition. 2 plus 2, you don't even know that. Because if these people knew that you knew how to do division and they don't even know how to do simple addition, they wouldn't even talk to you or hang out with you, and vice versa. Because you would know, it'd be clear, stark, obvious that you're ahead of them, and that you know what I'm saying? And so the Lord had to make you think that you didn't know forget your division, so that you don't even know that anymore, and that you struggled to do addition, even though you did know that all along. But vice versa, the Lord had to do that so it also looked believable to them, because when they're saying, well, do you know how to do division? No, I don't. So that it seemed believable, because you do know how to do division, but it was covered up. So when you said, no, I don't, it wasn't a lie or a fib. You really didn't know, because the Lord had covered up that fact from the very beginning, okay? So some of these people, while this mission is unfolding, there were things that happened that didn't work out in your favor, right? It worked out in your favor, but it appeared as though it wasn't working out in your favor. And it needed to appear like it wasn't working out in your favor, because if these people knew it was all rigged and that it was all going in your favor in the background, they wouldn't have continued to play. Think about it. If you know you're going to win, you're not going to play. But likewise, if they know they're going to lose, they're not going to play. So from the very beginning of this race, you were the declared winner and they were the declared loser, over and over and over and over again. But if you knew you were going to be the winner over and over again, you wouldn't have played. And if they knew they were going to lose over and over again, they wouldn't have played. So the Lord had to make you like look like a fool and act like a fool so that these people could be fooled into thinking you're a fool, so that in actuality they could treat you like a fool, so that they could turn around and be the real fool that they really are at the end, if that makes any sense, right? It's so hard to explain it. And so when these things were going along the way, according to plan, the Lord is saying, to where it looked like as if things were going against you, these people were laughing like, oh, we're making this 10 look like a 5, and they're so foolish, they have no idea. But in actuality, you did know what was going on. Maybe not to every point, but you knew what was going on. They don't realize that you were sent into it with more information than they thought, but that had to be a part of it, because if they knew that you knew more, as much as you know or knew going into it, then they wouldn't have been able to successfully do this behind your back. You know what I'm trying to say? So with that said, when you were having to uncover these puzzle pieces for this puzzle to put it all together, it was their mission to go, the Lord's showing like an egg hunt where, people will go hide the eggs, and some eggs are hidden really well and some are not, right? Some are easy to find and some not so much. That's like these puzzle pieces to make up this puzzle picture. You need, in order to make a puzzle, you need all the pieces you can to have the picture start to formulate, right? And so the Lord had these people that were your adversaries go and hide these puzzle pieces, some really well and some not so well. So some were easy to find, some were harder. Some you had to go through a lot of work to retrieve, okay? But eventually, over the course of the 3, 4, 5 year time frame, you got another one and another one and another one and another one, and you started to build the puzzle. And as anyone that's built a puzzle knows, you don't need every single piece in order to see the picture. If you're building a 500 piece puzzle and you have 200 pieces, you start to see the picture, right? Not perfectly, but some. And then you gain another 100 pieces, it's even clearer. And then another 100 pieces, and you don't have all 500 pieces, but you can pretty much tell what the picture is even at 400, right? That's how this was that you already had an idea, right? But not every single thing was clear. This is why you had to go through this in the first place. As you went through this, you uncovered these pieces of this puzzle and put it together. And as it started to take shape and form, you started to have even more clarity as to what was going on, right? And so there, even though you knew things, there were like surprises along the way. And same with these people, okay? And so you learn things about yourself through this that you knew before, but it wasn't revealed to you or unveiled to you, the Lord is saying, that has been revealed and unveiled to you since. So now you have that awareness. So the point is, you will never, ever go down to 5 again. You will never date a 5. You will never work at a job that's a 5, deal with coworkers that are 5s, be friends with people that are 5s. You will never lower yourself from the 10. Like, this mission allowed you to discover the true 10 that you are in every shape, form, and fashion. Inside, outside, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all of it. And so because of that, that's something that had you not went through your trauma in your past and were taught that from, like, not even taught, but been able to see that from your very beginning, you never would have been with these people in the first place. A lot of years got wasted for you, unfortunately, having to be in that messed up mindset, that backwards mindset, okay? That's why the Lord said enough is enough. And so he created this mission to put an end to it. And so that's what happened. An end has been put to it. What was needed to be accomplished has been accomplished. You have uncovered these nuggets of truth that the Lord wanted you to find out about yourself, and you've done that. And so now moving forward, you're going to only associate with 10 level status like you are. You will only date level 10 partners. You will only be in level 10 relationships. You will only work at a level 10 job. You only have level 10 friends. You will only see yourself as a level 10. You will never go back down to rubbing your shoulders with 5s in any way, shape, or form. And their mission is to try to bring you back, bring you down, right? Down to their level again. And that's what the devil's been trying to use them to do, because it was orchestrated by God. But don't get me wrong, God needs the devil in here to direct his people. Because some of these people, why they're 5s and not 10s, is because they're the devil's children. And so the Lord was letting the devil, I forget what the word, but we'll just say direct his children accordingly. That's not the word I wanted, but whatever. The Lord was allowing the devil to direct his children accordingly, right? And then you're God's kid, so he's directing you accordingly, okay? And so this was all like, everything you went through was for you to win. And everything that these people did, good, bad, or ugly, for you or against you, was all for you to win. It was like, imagine the beginning of when this launched and the Lord coming to this person, these adversaries, these 5's, and saying, okay, so y'all are going to go and set up this big elaborate scheme for my child. You're going to think that it's something favorable for you, but it's not. It's actually favorable for my child. You're going to lose every step along the way, whether you realize it or not. Ultimately, you will. And then when the finale plays out and my child wins and comes out victorious and you lose for the final time, you're going to look like the loser that you are, okay? And that is because when you play for the devil or you're the devil's child, you don't win. You don't prosper. And those that come against my kids don't ever win or prosper, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Imagine that. These people would not have done that for a nanosecond, let alone as long as they had. So the Lord had to have the devil make them think that things were going to work out for them. Like, you're going to be able to make this person look bad. You're going to come out on top, they're going to become a 5 and you'll become a 10. And that was the thing, was these people knew you were a 10. They wanted you to become a 5, but you weren't becoming a 5 because you were a 10. And then simultaneously they were 5's and they wanted to be 10's. So the devil lied to them and told them, if you do this, you're going to go from a 5 to a 10 and be on their level. And they're going to go from the 10 they are down to the 5 you are. And y'all will change positions permanently. Okay, you'll be like them and they'll be like you. And that was incentive enough, like a trade, the Lord is saying, that was incentive enough for these people to say, oh, okay. And then the Lord's saying that there's other things along the way that was said to them too, that you'll be able to look like a winner. You'll be able to look like this awesome person, and you're going to make them look like a loser, and you're going to get to win. And because these people have never won, like they've never been 10's, they're always been 5's, they're going to jump at the chance to become a 5 or to at least look like one. You know what I'm saying? And so this is the thing, was there was like this, I don't know, consolation prize promised to them that it didn't end up working out that way. Okay. They were deemed the loser from the beginning, and now that the cards have all been played out, they're the loser at the end. And you were the winner at the beginning, and now at the end, you're still the winner. So, now and then the Lord is saying this is something that had been being revealed to them along the way, little bits and pieces, and they didn't want to believe it, right? So it caused them to go even harder and try harder to try and make this all go down, okay? And so some of the ways that this can look like is, it can look like, so in the past, before this mission was launched, you were with somebody, you were dated some people that were 5's, you were friends with some people that were 5's, and y'all inevitably broke up and went separate ways because 10's and 5's can't work, right? They can't work with you and you can't work with them. And so some of these people were disgruntled because of the fact that you were, see, this is why the Lord's saying you have to be very careful. This was why it was kind of dangerous for you being a 10 and hanging out with 5's, is because when you're a 10 and you hang out with 5's and they get a taste of that, and, because when say there's level 5 men and level 5 women, up until you came along, they'd only really dated other level 5 women and level 5 men, right? So when a 10 comes along and genuinely expresses interest in them like you did, because you were being authentic all along, they don't want to lose that. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Picture you're only earning $20 a day your entire life, and all of a sudden someone comes along with an opportunity that you can earn $100 a day. You don't, even though you think, what's the catch, right? What's the catch? It doesn't make sense. But say it's legit, it's actually coming in, you're getting $100 a day. You don't want to give that up. You don't want to lose that. And if somebody's threatening to take that away from you and you're going to go back down to $20 a day, you might act out, right? And so this is why the Lord is saying is that this is how it was dangerous for you as a 10 to be putting yourselves in these level 5 situations, is because when they inevitably didn't work out, which inevitably they won't, some of these people didn't want to lose their level 10 friend and go back to level 5 friends. They didn't want to lose their level 10 girlfriend or boyfriend and go back to level 5 boyfriends or girlfriends. They didn't want to lose a level 10 employee, you know what I mean, and go back to level 5 employees. So because you were putting yourself intentionally in lower level situations that were beneath you, when the shit hit the fan, which of course it will, and you all go your separate ways, they are trying to stalk you. They're trying to bring you back. They're trying to ruin your reputation so that nobody else takes their 10 from them. Well, that 10 doesn't want to be my friend. Well, I'll make sure that 10 doesn't have any other friends then. Why? Because they're a 5. It's expected of them. And some of them were being governed and directed by the devil, right? So what's to be confused by? Of course a snake's going to bite. And, same thing with the lover, well, I'm going to make sure they can't get another lover, because I don't want to go from I had level 5s, I dealt with it, then I had a 10 them, and now my 10 is gone, and now I'm just supposed to go back to dating 5s? I don't want to go back to dating 5s. And if I have to go back to dating 5s, that's bad enough. Then my 10 is off dating somebody else. You know what I'm saying? This is why. I know this is a really weird way of explaining this, but this is how the Lord is showcasing it to me, is that I know this applies for me, and I know this applies for others, especially in particular the chosen ones. And so this is why the Lord gave me this message, is because this is what it's been. If for the last 5 years, say 3, 4, 5, whatever it's been for you, but that's the term of time the Lord's kind of highlighting to me, maybe even longer, maybe some of you even longer, but you're a chosen one. You've been wondering why you have faced so many bad breakups between friends, and situation after situation just blowing up. It's because you were going down, you were leveling down, you know what I mean? And these people, you would get hurt and sad and mad at these people being snakes and biting. But of course a snake's gonna bite, you know what I'm saying? It's in its nature, especially if it's being told to bite by the devil. And so that's the thing, is that you weren't in the wrong, and neither were these people. They were in the wrong because they're snakes, but snakes are going to bite. That's their nature to do so. You can't knock them for that. And the same thing with you. They thought that you were up to tricks, but you never were. You were a genuine person. The only reason why you were 10 going down to a 5 in any capacity is because you had situations in your past that made you think you were a 5. Treated you that way because they were jealous and envious of the fact that you were a 10. And that's the thing. That's what the Lord is saying, is when you're a 10 and you're being born into a family of 5s, you're dating 5s, you're working with 5s, you're being friends with 5s, whatever it may be, people are apt to be jealous of you, right? They're apt to try to control you. They're apt to be jealous of you. They're apt to try to bring you down because of the fact, no different than how Cinderella's evil stepsisters tried to bring Cinderella down. And why? Because Cinderella was a 10. We saw that in the movie, but she was in a situation acting like a 5. Because here she is, a princess marrying a prince, right, down the road, but she's a maid, cleaner, and like cleaning, wearing rags. You know what I mean? So here she is a 10. She's a princess, born and bred to be one, destined to be one, but she's living the lifestyle, living in a home and being around people that are 5s. And then it's no wonder why they're mistreating her, because they're jealous of her being a 10. And we can see through watching the movie that there's more to her than what she's doing. She's living the lifestyle of a 5, but she's not a 5. She's higher than that, right? And then it isn't until her calling comes where she ends up going to the ball and meeting the prince, and everything worked out in her favor, like with the fairy godmother coming and getting her dressed up, and then the carriage and all that stuff. That was all for her favor, so that she could go and meet the prince to finally, whether Cinderella was 30, 20, 30, 40, 50, it didn't matter. The point was that the time had come for her to finally acknowledge and realize who she really was. The evil stepsisters that looked down on her and treated her badly, they weren't 10s, they were 5s, born and bred and raised and will pass away a 5. That's why they act that way, right? But she was always a 10. And she was, for whatever reason, I think in the actual story it says that she was a orphan or whatever. And so because she went through situations in her past that were traumatizing, hurtful, like parent dying, whatnot, it's what caused her to feel like she was less than what she really was when she wasn't. She was born a 10 and was meant to always be one. Hence a princess, a prince's wife, right? But that was to come, let's say, when she was 30, 35, whatever age she was that came to pass, right? But up until then, she'd had 20, 30 years of hardship of living this life as a cleaner, maid girl, you know what I mean? Servant, basically. But that's not what she was. And so this is the thing, as the Lord is showing us the very same thing, is like, this is why you were receiving this, right? And so the Lord had you go through this in order to see who you really were, right? Or really are, I should say, were and are. Who you were all along and who you are now. So now you can clearly see who you were throughout the last decades of your life, from when you were born till now, and who you will be moving forward throughout your future, okay? And so the Lord is saying, had it not went like this, you would have continued. If Cinderella had never went to the ball, she wouldn't have met the prince. And if that never happened, she would have just continued all the rest of her days till she was 80 years old, being a servant, being a maid, being mistreated by those evil stepsisters. What happened in order for her to be put in a position to see how things, hey, I'm a 10, I'm a princess, they're 5s. I'm not below them, they're below me. They should be cleaning. Like a year later, after Cinderella married the prince, she should have been calling the evil stepsisters to come clean the palace. You know what I mean? In retaliation for what happened to her, right? That's how it was meant to be. But she couldn't have saw that until after the fact, right? And so the Lord is saying that's the same thing with a lot of the chosen ones. That this is, I hope this is filling in the blanks for you, because it really definitely did for me. Because there were so many times I wondered in my past, 10, 15, 20 years ago, like, why was it like this? Why was it like that? And now I see it crystal clear. But up until I went through this mission and accomplished it, I knew these things, but I was in the dark about a lot of these things. Because what's been unveiled to me and to you, chosen one, along this mission is things that were always there, but we couldn't see because they were covered, okay? But now that you've went through this mission, it's been unveiled to you, and once you see something, you can't unsee it, right? And so that's what's happened with these people. And so therefore, to make this go off without a hitch, this looks like people from your past that were disgruntled, that I already spoke about, that had bones to pick with you because they're jealous and envious, and how dare you leave, how dare you quit that job, how dare you stop being friends with them, how dare you break up with them. Some of them moved on, they just accepted it and moved on, right? Others of them, they took up a cause against you, and those were the ones that the Lord used. And so yes, in the beginning stages, when it was just the easier checkers game, these people were pulling out certain stops that they really thought were going to cause you to pause, right? But they didn't. You maybe did temporarily, but you found your way around their little obstacles. And that's why you graduated up from checkers to chess. When you graduated from checkers to chess, they were blown away. They didn't even think that you would pass the first level of checkers, because the Lord made them think you were that dumb on purpose. And so over time, now you're on like the third level of chess and they've lost like 10 rounds, they're thinking, what's going on here, right? And so then it had to switch. Now instead of this, it had to become where their anger was aroused and their jealousy and their envy was aroused, because that's what it was going to take to have them continue to bring this home. The competition vibe kicked in. See, at first when y'all ran this race, they thought you were going to lose, so they barely put in effort. But when the first lap went round and you won that one, they're like, okay, well, that was luck. And then you won the second and third one, they thought it was still luck. So by the time you're winning lap 10, they're like, okay, maybe I need to pick up some speed here, because I thought this would be a shoo-in, and I'm starting to see that I'm losing, and I don't like how I look. I don't like that they're winning and that I'm losing. It makes them look good and me look bad. I better put in some effort. And then you still were winning. So they're like, okay, now I'm really going to go. And so now at the end, the Lord's saying at the last few laps, they were like, really plowing, you know what I mean? Because they're like, wow, I actually and so the Lord is saying they were confused, because they're like, where is this coming from, right? And so when you were first saying, it's God's with me, God's working through me, they didn't believe that. And that's because God had them not believe it, because had they known from the jump that God was working with you, they would have known it was a fixed fight. It was rigged in your favor, right? So they had to test you and think, oh, God's not with them, let's see, and in order for them to continue going, every single thing, every time that they disbelieved you, every time they were envious, every time that they were competitive, every time that they upped the ante, every time that they lied, every time that they thought they were strategizing, every single little hiccup along the way, the Lord orchestrated and created that. Because it was necessary for you to keep pushing every lap after lap after lap. Because after you won so many laps, you could have just went and sat down. But you weren't done yet, you see. And so the Lord needed to keep upping the ante so that you kept having to raise the bar. And vice versa for these people. they would have, oh, I keep losing, I'm done with this, they would have sat down. The Lord couldn't have that. So he had to keep making them think that the winning moment was around the corner for them, but it never was. You see, and so some of these people are seeing this now, and if they're not now, it's around the bend. They're going to discover this. You know how it's very clear to you now? It's going to become very clear to them that it was rigged the whole time in your favor, that you were never the fool that they thought that you were, that you were always the winner from beginning, middle, and end. They were always delegated the loser from beginning, middle, and end, and that they completely wasted their time, and they're the ones that got snowed. They're the ones that got had. They're the ones that were fooled. And the whole time they thought they were fooling you. And that was what it took to make them go through with this plan on their end, is to think they were fooling you. Because if they knew that they weren't fooling you and that they're going to look like the fools they really truly are in the end, it would have went, it wouldn't have even went off, the Lord is saying. So this is why sometimes you have to play the fool to fool the fool who thinks they're fooling you. And the Lord is saying these people are so foolish that when I say that, they don't even understand what that means. They may laugh, they may chuckle, but they really truly don't understand the breakdown of that phrase, okay? Because unfortunately for them, they don't have the brain capacity that you do because of the fact that they were born fives, and you're born a 10, okay? And that in and of itself gave them the gusto to have to go against you or want to go against you in the first place, to take you down a peg. And so along the way, when they thought they were taking you down pegs, they were like really jumping for joy about this. But in reality, you were never taking down any pegs. You were actually the opposite. The whole entire time you were uncovering your true value and worth. The true value and worth that they saw from the beginning that they had a problem with. You just couldn't see. It's no different than, Cinderella a year before the ball looked one way, and then Cinderella a year after the ball married to the prince looked another way, right? And so this is the thing, it was all for you, chosen one. It was all for your favor because you're a child of God. The Lord wanted you to see your true value, the true princess or prince that you are inside, okay? That these people saw from the beginning. You just couldn't. And so this looks like some of them, so one of the situations Lord was highlighting to me is that So for some of you, some of these ex-friends and partners had a bone or beef with you from a while back, okay? And so they were easily used as pawns, the Lord is saying, in this game. They were used as pawns. Whether they realized it or not, they were. And then there were certain specific individuals, specific ones, out of those ones, that the Lord used as a, pawn 2.0, like as a pawn on steroids, okay? And that person can look like specific 2 or 3 different friends that were going around trying to make you look bad, trying to spread gossip about you, trying to maybe sabotage you, right? To do things to keep you from going up to your level 10 status and staying down at the level 5. This can also look like specific partners, maybe 1, 2, 3 partners from your past. Same thing goes. So some of these, there was, the Lord's saying, again, because you're dealing with 5s, and these 5s are like snakes. Snakes are going to bite, right? So some of these level 5 people / snakes had it out for you, okay, because of their past dealings with you. And it wasn't because they tried to say it's because you did this or you did that or you did this. And no, it wasn't. It was because of the fact, no different than Cinderella wasn't perfect, but her evil stepsisters only had a problem with her because she was better than them. I'm just like, what do you want? That's the facts. You've seen the movie, have you not? That's what it was. And so that's the thing. Some of these people from your past had an issue with the fact that you were a 10 and they weren't. And so even though you're not a perfect person, you probably maybe did 1 or 2 things, that weren't in the greatest light for you. The Lord is saying what the main issue was that they were 5s and you were a 10. And that was enough of a beef for them because they're a snake, okay? So because of this, they wanted to bite you. And so not all of them did, but the Lord had some of them bite you, okay, proverbially. And then meanwhile, the Lord had other ones so some in this category, some in that category. So family member category, friend category, lover category, and then these ones were the ones that were the 2.0 snakes to go against you, the hardest, okay? So this can look like some of the people sharing intimate details about you, right? Those closest to you, sharing photos, texts, whatever it may be, any type of material to try to achieve this goal of keeping you down at a 5 status, so that you can feel bad about yourself, or so that people can look down at you, so that you're not looked up upon at your level 10, so that you're looked down upon at your level 5. You know what I'm saying? And the Lord is saying that was necessary too, even if you knew it at the time. And that's the thing, is these people thought you didn't know. They thought that they were so sneaky and crafty and that you had no clue what was going on, but you knew. You're too intuitive to not know, right? The Lord's gifted you too much for you to be a complete idiot. You knew who was for you and who was against you. You knew that the majority of people were against you, and it was because of bitterness and envy and spite. You knew that people were going and doing dirty-handed, sneaky things against you. You knew that people were teaming up and having conversations behind your back, and these people thought it was all done under your nose, that you just had no clue. And little do they know that you actually knew all along. But the Lord had you just continue to push through anyways, right? It's just like Cinderella. She knew that her stepsisters were setting her up and doing things that, to try and bring her down, but she still carried on anyways, right? And because that's what a child of God does. That's what a level 10 does. A level 10 is positive and moves forward and learns what they need to learn. They're diplomatic, all of that stuff, right? That's how Cinderella stood out in the movie compared to the sisters, and that's how you stood out compared to these people, right? And so when all these people are saying this person, these are people that people knew that you dated and were friends with, and family members, and they're saying these things, and they're all singing the same tune. Then they start to think, well, maybe there is some truth to this. Even though it seemed far-fetched, but they're like, maybe there is, because why is their ex saying this, plus their friend, I saw them hang out with them for years, and then their family member? Like, that's too much coincidence, right? Well, that was them all purposely trying to conglomerate in that fashion so that it could look more believable, right? Because they'll do whatever it takes to keep you down, because they don't like the fact that they're level 5 snakes and you're a level 10, right? Chosen one. So yeah, so anyways, so these people did things against you, chosen one, but you already knew that. But they didn't think you knew that, but you did know that, right? And they're starting to see things for how they really are. They're starting to see how this was all orchestrated. And originally and all along, they thought it was orchestrated in their favor. It was an advantage for them and a disadvantage for you. But now they're starting to see that actually it's the other way around. It was advantageous for you and disadvantageous for them, right? But this is what I'm saying. This is how the Lord works. He's very strategic. But at the end of the day, the winner is you, because these people are 5s. They'll always be 5s. They were 5s before they met you. They were 5s while they knew you, and they're 5s today as we speak, and they're going to leave this world as 5s. It is what it is, right? And you, on the other hand, were born a 10, always could have lived a life as a 10, but you were put in circumstances that didn't make you realize or feel like you were a 10, so that truth was hidden and veiled from you. And it took this mission and rubbing shoulders with these people, the Lord used this circumstance to your advantage, to where they worked for you, so to speak. And they taught you these lessons that you now know, that have propelled you into the level 10 status that you always were. And now that you know this, you'll never go back. These people think you're going to get back with them. You're not. They think that you all are still friends. You're not. They think that, you'll always just be good old you, that you're just the punching bag today that you always were, and that's how you'll always be, and you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Like, that's what these people think. But little do they know, it's like, no, if you remember the movie Cinderella, she went from being the servant girl to the princess overnight, right? And she was no longer under the evil stepsister's thumb and cleaning and all this stuff. She actually was the opposite. She was being celebrated for the princess that she always was. She was being wined and dined and all of this, right? And so that's the thing what these people don't understand, is that you're never going to go back to these situations. This was the whole point of it. And so these people thought, when you're saying God's with me, they're like, God can't be with you, because if God's with you, why would he let us lie on you? Why would he let us gossip about you? Why would he let us group up and sabotage you? It doesn't make sense. God wouldn't do that. Well, yeah, he would. Didn't he allow Cinderella to be a servant to the evil stepsisters for several years? while she's sleeping in a cellar and everything, you know what I mean? Like, eating scraps. Like, yeah, he will do that, you know. Look at so many characters in the Bible. Look what he allowed Joseph to go through. Look what he allowed Daniel to go through, right? Like, this is the thing, is look what he allowed Job to go through. So it's like, no, the Lord will do that, though. And actually, the fact that you go through the struggle and the hardships, and you're real down and out, and people have a thumb over you, that actually proves more that you're a child of God than if you just have this, like, spoiled, pompous, glamorous life. You know what I mean? And so this is the thing, is that you know, this situation taught so many lessons. It taught these people that you really are a child of God, that you really are level 10, that you were lowering yourself to be with them, to date them, to hang out with them, to work there, whatever it may be. And they knew that then, but they were hoping you would never uncover that, and you have. And they're starting to discover that you have uncovered that. And they're going to start to see more and more that you're not coming back to that, and that you're only going to receive a level 10 from here on moving forward, that their plan didn't work out the way they thought it would, that they actually hooked themselves. They didn't know that, but they do now, or they're starting to see it, that while they thought they were hooking you, they're actually hooking them. And that this serves no purpose, and that when this blows over, they're going to be shown as the losers that they are. They lost the game fair and square, and they're going to be shown that they lost the game fair and square. Do you think it makes someone look good that lies, that gossips, that betrays, that backstabs, that abuses? No. When it looked like it was warranted, that was one thing, but when it becomes uncovered that it wasn't warranted because you are seeing you're the 10 that you've always been and going off to level 10 stuff, all that's left behind holding that bag from the past is these losers that lost this game. And so it's going to be shown to them and to you and to these people who they really are. And so not only did they lose, they lost 2.0. And not only did you win, you won 2.0. You know what I'm saying? To the next level. So anyways, so yeah. So I'm here to say that this is the spiritual story. This is the spiritual backstory. Okay? This is the spiritual report. It physically, on the physical sense, it looked like these people were sent by God to bring you down. And I can see why they maybe thought that. And of course they thought that. They're 5's, right? They're not as intelligent. So therefore it can appear that way. But they're starting to learn through this that appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes what things look like is maybe not what they always are. And that was a lesson they needed to learn, okay? And so they went for it full gusto because they thought they were going to come on top, because they thought God was with them and against you, because God made it appear that way. But really, that was just him fooling the fools who thought that you were the fool and that they were fooling you, right? And then as this is played out and they lost and stuff, their own competitive, stubborn, prideful, arrogant, evil nature took over. Why they're a genuine 5 snake in the first place took over and started to have them come against you with their own wholeheartedness, right? With their own peace of mind, because of their true nature coming out. Like I said, the true nature of a snake is to bite. And so these snakes, they bit, right? That's what they're going to do. And you're seeing this all, their part and your part, from a whole new level, a whole new context, right? And that was the whole point. And so this situation is going to unfold even more, right, as it goes on and on. But the Lord's just sending me here today with this big download, this huge revelation and confirmation. And so I know it has served me well. It's blessed me in certain ways. And I know the Lord is going to send those that need to hear it, that it's going to bless as well, who is for too. So anyways, I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll be back if the Lord leads me to anything else. I really hope it made sense. And again, if it's for you, it will, because those who have ears to hear will hear, and you will hear what I'm saying spiritually, right? In the background, right? And as the backstory to this whole situation. So just give the Lord glory and praise, because he worked it out for you. He did it for you, chosen one. It was for your understanding, your own awareness, your revelation, right? And it's because these are things that the Lord wanted revealed to you a long time ago, you know, and the time arrived. For such a time as this, the time has arose that it was time for you to learn these fundamental things about yourself, so that you could go on to spend the next 20, 30, 40 years in a better spot than you may perhaps spent the last 20, 30, 40 years. So anyways, I hope it finds you well. Take care, and God bless.